Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. It is officially October, which is one of my favorite months in the year, and now we get to enjoy both the Halloween spooky vibes and the autumn leaves and all of the autumn vibes, and it's just a great time. So to take advantage of this wonderful time of year, I wanted to do a tag that I just recently saw Ali V do on YouTube. I will link her video in the description. But she wasn't the creator of that tag, so I'm going to be using the creator's original questions, and I will link that article in the description as well. But without further ado, let's get into the Cozy Autumn book tag. Question number 1, what book always reminds you of fall/autumn? So for me, fall is always kind of spooky vibes time. So anytime I think of fall, I think about some of my favorite spooky books or kind of classic horror spooky books. So I have two answers for this question. The first is obviously Frankenstein by Mary Shelley, which I only just read last year, like in full. I had read the story, like the children's versions of the story, the abridged versions. So I was familiar with the story, but I didn't read the entire thing before last year. And last autumn I did for a class, and I really, really loved it. This is the 1818 text, so this is like the original text before it was edited and published in the 1830s. So yeah, my copy is like very heavily annotated. I used it for a bunch of papers in my class, and I had a lot of fun reading it. And obviously Frankenstein is perfect for the spooky vibes, though I was expecting it to be scarier than it was. It was not that scary. It was just more interesting to ponder and think about. So yeah, this book definitely reminds me of fall. And then the other book that reminds me of fall is another book that I read last year in October, and that's I'm Thinking of Ending Things by Ian Reid, which is one of my all-time favorite books now. I'd put it in like my top 5 or top 10 favorite books of all time. This book was terrifying. It just made me question everything. Like, do I understand what's going on? No, what's happening? But I loved it, and I'm going to be reading this again this month, so I'm probably going to make this a yearly reread. But yeah, it always reminds me of fall, so that's question 1. Question number 2, what's your favorite autumnal book cover? And for that, I have chosen To Drink Coffee with a Ghost by Amanda Lovelace. The cover has these beautiful fall leaves and then the little piece to a Ouija board on it. And I just really, really like this cover. This book was a decent read. I think at this time I was really into the kind of Instagram poetry vibes, and I read like Milk and Honey and all of those kind of books. So this fit in really well with that. But I will say that I do like this series a lot better than her more well-known series. I didn't really like that series at all. This one I did enjoy both of the books in this series, but I ended up picking up To Drink Coffee with a Ghost. And I sat outside 3 years ago, I don't remember. Sat outside a few years ago and read this in the fall, and it was perfect fall vibes. But yeah, the cover really speaks to the fall vibes, and I really, really like it. Question number 3, what is your favorite autumnal drink to read with? So today I still have my iced coffee, and honestly I drink iced coffee year round in the mornings. I definitely still read with iced coffee, but I will say that fall is a huge time for me to be a tea drinker. I love drinking herbal teas especially. I like having a cup of tea at night before bed, and even during the day if I'm just reading and I want a cup of tea. So during the rest of the year I don't drink tea as much. I drink tea sometimes in the winter, but in the fall it's just like perfect tea season. Some of my favorites are this bedtime tea that I absolutely love, and this cinnamon tea, which I found at a shop years ago and then couldn't find for years after that, and then just found it again. So I'm obsessed. It's so good. Those are my favorite teas. I also have a favorite mug that was gifted to me by my boyfriend, so love that. But yeah, that's mainly what I drink in the fall. Sometimes apple cider, but that's a more rare occurrence. Question number 4, do you prefer to read late at night or early in the morning? Honestly, I prefer reading in the morning. And that's because by the time I get to nighttime, I'm either on the phone with my boyfriend or I just kind of want to veg out and do nothing because I had a long day. And while I love the idea of reading at night, it just doesn't seem to happen. Like I'll sit down with my book and then I'll get distracted with social media or watching YouTube or getting a phone call or whatever it may be. But reading in the morning is such a vibe because it's a great start to the day. I feel like I am more awake and more ready to like focus on something in the morning. So yeah, I end up reading in the morning a lot more. Question number 5, Halloween is coming. What is your favorite spooky read? So as I mentioned, probably my favorite spooky read would be I'm Thinking of Ending Things by Ian Reid. This was just so scary. But I also really liked The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson. And honestly, anything by Shirley Jackson would fit this category. But I've only read 2 of her actual novels so far. And this one was definitely the more spooky, weird one of the 2. I read this, I started it last October, didn't finish it until this March, I believe, where I did a kind of horror readathon, a women in horror readathon, which was really fun. So yeah, I did quite a bit of annotation when I read this. I had a great time reading it. It definitely was spooky. So if you're looking for a good spooky rec, this is kind of a classic, but it's really accessible and easy to get into, so highly recommend. Question number 6, what is the ultimate comfort read for you? I think I have 2 answers to this question. The ultimate comfort read would obviously be The Fault in Our Stars by John Green. This is my heavily annotated copy. I've read this book so many times. I've written all over the pages of this book. It's my favorite book, and I feel like I go back to it on a yearly basis at least, but I go back to it constantly when I need just a little bit of emotional support. So I watch the movie when I need a little support. I read the book. And yeah, it's just an absolute comfort read. 10 out of 10. I know this isn't like a literary masterpiece or anything, but it's very comforting to me to read over and over and over again. My other comfort read would be Blankets by Craig Thompson, which is a giant graphic novel memoir that I absolutely adore. I read it for the first time maybe 2 years ago, almost 3 years ago. And I've just read it like 4 or 5 times since then. It is basically a giant graphic novel dealing with Craig Thompson's time as a teenager and some of his childhood and growing up in a very Christian community and suppressing his sexuality. It's not even comforting because it's happy, because honestly it's not a happy book at all, but it's just something about it is so comforting to me, just being in that space, remembering what it was like and seeing him progress and grow and change over time. It's just really comforting to me. So yeah, I do come back to this relatively frequently. I'm actually due for another reread. I should probably do that soon, but yes, a huge comfort read for me. Question number 7, what is your favorite autumnal reading snack? So lately I have been obsessed with these pumpkin chocolate chip gluten-free cookies that I've been getting from the coffee shop that I work at. So that's kind of associated with like fall and reading for me, because a lot of the times I'll be like snacking on that and reading while it's kind of slow at the coffee shop. I also really like eating just like almonds and drinking tea while I'm reading. In the summer that ends up being like iced tea, and in the fall that ends up being hot tea. But almonds are a great snack all year, but they do feel kind of fall-esque. I don't know if that makes any sense, but it's a vibe. Question number 8, what is your favorite autumnal candle to burn whilst reading? So I had a candle that I was obsessed with. It was a Bath & Body Works candle, and it was kind of a rum, sugar scent. It was very fall-esque. What was it called? I just threw away the jar because it was so empty, but I gotta look up what it was called now. Yes, okay, I found it. It was Bath & Body Works Gather, which was bourbon glazed apples, maple sugar, and creamy vanilla. Oh my god, that was such a good fall scent. I'm so mad that they discontinued it. It was incredible. I burned that for years. I had like a couple of candles that I bought while it was still available. Burned it for several years. It was amazing. But I do have another candle that I bought recently that I've burned about halfway through, and it's not really a fall scent, but I'm associating it with fall now because I'm burning it during fall. And that is this Patty Wax Mandarin and Lavender Soy Candle, which looks like this. It's very cute packaging. This smells incredible. Like I said, it's not like a fall scent, but it smells so good and leaves just a nice, lingering, subtle scent in the room after, and it's just a great, nice scent to have while you're reading, listening to some music in the background. I've especially been enjoying lighting this, having my tea, listening to like Bon Iver or something really chill in the background while I'm reading. It's a whole vibe and I'm loving that for fall. This is kind of random, but it just kind of explains how my brain works during fall, because the rest of the year, I don't feel like I have to curate vibes to read in, but during the fall, I'm like, okay, I need my tea, I need my candle, I need my music, like I want to go sit outside where I can see pretty fall leaves, and I want to wear a sweater, like a chunky sweater. It has to be a whole entire setup of the vibe to read. The rest of the year, I'm like, okay, I'll sit outside and read, or I'll sit inside and read in the winter, like whatever. But in the fall, I feel like I just have to set up the perfect vibe to read in. And if I don't have the perfect vibe, it just isn't the same. So that's super random, but I feel like my brain literally works different in the fall. Question number 9, when you're not reading, what is your favorite autumnal activity? So obviously I really like apple picking. Apple picking is a huge thing in New York in the fall, so I really enjoy that. I also really like going for nice walks in the fall, or going on trails, or like just walking out on a nice trail and taking photos. Like I love doing that in the fall. Just being outside in the fall is so much more fun to me because you're not worried about like sweating your butt off or anything. You're just kind of enjoying the cooler weather. So most of the stuff I like to do in the fall is like outdoor stuff. But I also really do like kind of just sitting inside and playing board games in the fall. That's also really fun. I have a favorite game. It is Settlers of Catan, and that is so much fun to play in the fall with like a cup of tea. So yeah, those are some of my favorite things to do in the fall when I'm not sitting and reading, which honestly doesn't happen that much because most of my time is sitting and reading. Question number 10, what is on your autumn/fall reading list? So most of the books that are on my like fall TBR, you can see in my October TBR video, which I will link in the description. Those are most of the things that I've planned to read in the fall, but there are a few books that I'm planning to read sort of towards November that I didn't talk about in that video, so I'll show you those now. So I want to read Florida by Lauren Groff because I'm going to be taking a little vacation in November to Florida. So obviously I have to read Florida in Florida. Obviously. I don't know a ton about this except for the fact that on like a bunch of zodiac recommendations, like book recommendations, this comes up for Taurus, and I'm a Taurus, so I had to give it a shot. It's a short story collection set in Florida. So we'll see how it goes. And then of course, I have another book that I want to read in Florida, which is also set in Florida because Kristen Arnett's books are all set in Florida. This is her short story collection, Felt in the Jaw, which sounds like it's gonna be pretty weird and strange, which I'm very much up for. But obviously I have to read both of these in Florida because it has to be a thematic TBR. These are the only books that I have kind of planned out that I want to read in November. So maybe as we approach November, I'll have a more structured TBR, but these definitely need to get done in the fall. So like I said, check out my October TBR video to get kind of the full scoop of what I'm planning on reading in the fall. But yeah, that's question 10. Alright, that is the end of the Cozy Autumn book tag. I hope you enjoyed this video. Feel free to play along as I'm talking through the questions in the comments. Write what your answers would be. I'd love to know. If you liked this video, feel free to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!